Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to not worry about the time delay on that computer.
There you go.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5 o'clock on June 25th, 2025 in the Council Chambers at the Municipal Administration Centre. Roll call this evening, Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Prenger. Councillor Steinhoff Gray. Councillor Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Williams. And I'd like to acknowledge the outstanding complement of staff members here this evening to support us in our discussions.
More than doubtful.
Councillor Kavanagh, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to begin this council meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewa of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewa of Saugeen First Nation. We recognize their ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land, and they continue to be its stewards today. For myself, this land acknowledgement confronts many uncomfortable truths, the kinds of conversations that force us as people to grapple with the reality that the land that was first housed by the First Nations was often taken through violence, broken treaties, and systemic displacement. We also make these land acknowledgements to overcome a fear of saying the wrong thing and recognize that the fear of using outdated language or making a cultural misstep is less important, and what's more important is continuing this conversation. The Municipality of Kincardine recognizes and deeply appreciates the significant contributions that Indigenous peoples have made, both in caring for this land and in shaping and strengthening our community through history and into the present. We acknowledge that this recognition must be an ongoing commitment and not merely words, and we strive to translate this acknowledgement into respectful relationships and collaborative partnerships that benefit all members of our community. Thank you.
Are there any amendments, additions, or deletions to or from the agenda this evening? I'd like to remind councillors to disclose any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof, either now or as it arises in the meeting. Moving on, we need a mover and seconder that the minutes of the council meeting held on June 11, 2025 be adopted as printed. Moved by councillors Blackwell and Hinchberger. All in favor? That's carried. All right, we move on to delegations and presentations, and I would ask Deputy Mayor Clark to assume the chair as I have the delegation this evening. Excellent. Good evening, Council. I'd like to make a presentation on my trip to Vienna for the Stakeholder Engagement Conference held in Vienna. First off, I'd like to begin by thanking Council for approving the international trip. You kind of wonder when you invest the money whether there's actually any benefit from it, but in the absence of the chair of the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Committees, the other Canadian delegates and myself were pleased to step forward and represent Canadian municipal interests. Next slide, please. So when you think of Vienna, you think of culture and food, but Vienna is also a busy center of international nuclear policy development. Slide 3, please. And the conference center at the United Nations building in Vienna was a elaborate, lavish. On the right is a picture of Mayor Sue Dion from Blind River and myself at one of the international displays. Next slide, please. Like most Canadian or Ontario conferences, the conference consisted of many guest speakers and panel discussions. They centered predominantly around stakeholder, and I want to clarify right now that partway through the conference there was a quite an internal conversation going on, because some of the Indigenous community representatives said stakeholder is not a good term to use. If we can change that to interested parties, because as Councillor Kavanagh alluded to, stakeholder reminds us that the Canadian government in the day gave homesteaders a stake and said, where you drive this in the ground, that's your ground. You are the stakeholder. So we watched with angst and surprise and gratitude that over time, in the last 2 or 3 days, the conversation became more about interested parties and how we engage with them. This forum in particular afforded opportunity for interested parties to discuss the value of that engagement process, right from pre-consultation through to the end product and the decommissioning of any nuclear sites. And engagement in this conference was particularly related to nuclear, but those skills are transferable to any issue. Next slide, please. So here's a picture of many of the mayors that were there. This was a really unique dynamic where, if you have the attention of the Director General, Rafael Grossi, if you have the interest, if you get that interest, or your delegation gets to the 28th floor of the UN building, you have made it to heaven. It is the most wonderful achievement ever. And the mayors had Director General's attention for that week anyway. Apparently he's moved on to a different issue now in Iran, so the focus might be somewhere else, but for that week, he was really attentive to the concerns of the mayors. Indeed, he said, if there are no willing communities, there is no nuclear. So Tuesday afternoon of that week was devoted to hearing the international stories, including ours from the municipality of Kincardine, from mayors, and only mayors, no premiers, no prime ministers, no presidents. And we all talked of the hopes and challenges of being a host community of a nuclear power generating site. And we talked about economic development, power, poverty, and insecurity, national and regional responsibilities, historic and present perceptions and their change, waste storage management, municipal, industry, community, and government partnerships, regulatory oversight, impact realities on local finances, whole nuclear life cycle planning, and more. Next slide, please. Out of those conversations, a joint statement emerged from mayors highlighting 3 main points: the essential role of willing host communities. The second point was the future that we are building depends on reliable, clean energy production to fuel economic diversity and growth. And thirdly, it highlighted the genuine engagement needed amongst and between governments, citizens, policymakers, and industry. That's what the conference was about, this proactive engagement of all interested parties. Next slide, please. Mayor Dion and myself, as well as the mayor and representatives from Ignace, attended the meeting consisting of the Global Partnerships. The Global Partnership is really in its infancy. It is the international, multinational organization, including all communities which host nuclear facilities. It's comprised of the group of European municipalities with nuclear facilities, or GMF. It's also includes the Energy Communities Alliance, the ECA, which is made up of American nuclear sites, and the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities, which is the Canadian version of the same. And we spent the time talking about the formalization of the working relationship amongst and between the partners, how we can support each other, acknowledging community experiences and the value that we play in advocating for nuclear production in not only in Europe, America, and Canada, but in the multitude of developing countries that are chasing nuclear as a form of sustainable, clean power, which helps them escape from power poverty. Next slide, please. So the next steps we see here are the value that we as the Canadian Association of Nuclear Host Communities believes is valuable. We define both our and the global partnerships value-added propositions, and we identified the ways where we can work together to advocate for the continued value in supporting nuclear, which includes environmental benefits, economic benefits, and educational benefits. Next slide, please. There was also a focus on youth in regards to nuclear. They had an art competition. This was one of the entries. You read this slide from the bottom to the top. The bottom slide has, this is fiction, where the image of nuclear is pumping all sorts of product into the air, and the sign fiction says, net zero does not need nuclear. In the middle picture, middle frame indicates where nuclear is now, which is a modern sort of energy production plant whereby there is steam escaping from any of the towers. In the top, we get to fusion, which is the utopian, perhaps, idea of energy production. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to travel to Vienna. I believe that the Canadian interests were well represented. Mayor Dion and the folks from Ignace and myself, and look forward to offering answers to any of the questions that you may have. Thank you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Slightly over the 5 minutes. But
I know. I wasn't so fast. I was. I really was.
Are there any questions? Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. And through you, Deputy Mayor, the chair, did you find a common theme amongst the other mayors? Like, we feel it here that there needs to be a lot more understanding between the nuclear industry and the host communities. Was that seem to be common? Because you were interacting with all the mayors around the world. So what was your overall feeling on that matter, please?
It's an interesting conversation whereby communities who have been long time host communities have this great high acceptance level of the nuclear industry. And there are, I spoke with one mayor from Sweden, and he said they already host a nuclear plant. They have a high level storage, and they're looking at low level and intermediate storage. And some of the community is quite concerned about all that. And the nuclear industry is presenting the case, scientifically proven, of the value of doing it like this, but it's not enough. So the strategy that the community has taken up says, we already have it. You walk over nuclear every day. Well, that's not true. That can't be right. No, there's storage facilities built under the town square that we have all been walking under for 50 years. So it is absolutely critical that municipalities, we are the benefactors of having nuclear production in our community. It's not just about the dollars. It is about the relationship between the industry and ourselves, the value towards environmental sustainability, and the financial sustainability of not just this municipality, but a larger region. We had strikingly similar conversations, any host communities and those communities that were looking for to get out of energy poverty were looking for the same benefits in their community.
Any further questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to staff reports. We have the updated 2025 CIP Community Improvement Plan Program funding allocation. We need a mover and seconder that council approve the use of the remaining balance of $40,000 from the Community Improvement Plan budget to support the implementation of the pre-development study and design program with a priority focus on downtown Kincardine and Tiverton, moved by councillors Hinchberger and Deputy Mayor Clark. Are there any questions? Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through your chair. Just like to say thanks, Evan, for taking the feedback from the last meeting and revising it. The only thing I have consideration going forward is whether the amount of money in the fund, we'll call it, is going to be sufficient to trigger the type of change I'm trying to envision, but that's a policy decision for council in the future and not yours. So thank you for your work.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. I guess one of my questions with when we're talking about priority focus on downtown Kincardine and Tiverton is, do we, with a kind of start date for July, do we feel like there's enough potential pre-development study and design work, the pipeline, that we can turn that around by and use that money by the end of 2025? And if there are other projects that are closer to realization, how will that be prioritized?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Blackwell, to answer your question regarding the likelihood of being able to spend the 40,000 of CIP funds, realistically, I am very confident that we will be able to spend that funds within the remainder of 2025. We do have a proposed launch date for applications for this project by the end of July. I would envision having 2 intakes, and of course, with the amended evaluation process, council will be looped in and have final approval on where the CIP funds are actually going to be spent regarding the proposed project. But to follow up on your question, I'm confident that we can easily spend the 40,000.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Human Resources Policy Updates. We need a mover and seconder that council repeal GG 1.15 Social Networking Policy and approve HR 08 Social Media Policy, and the council repeal GG 6.2 Acceptable Use of IT Policy and approve HR 07 Acceptable Use of IT Policy. The council repeal GG, which is General Government, 6.19 Right to Disconnect Policy, and approve Human Resources 09 Right to Disconnect Policy. And that council repeal GG 6.2 Winter Storm Policy and approve HR 10 Winter Storm Policy. And that council repeal GG 6.1 Highway Traffic Act offenses, GG 6.4 Logbook Policy, GG 6.3 Nepotism and Council Relations Policy, and GG 6.16 Flex Time Policy. Moved by councillors Stewart and Hinchberger. Questions? Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. HR 10 Winter Storm Policy, page 3, bottom paragraph. Just need to know some of the numbers. It says, in a situation where an employee was not able to report to work and cannot work from home, the employee will be paid regular time for the period when the facility is officially closed. I don't really have a problem with this, but the problem I'm having is that this year the schools are closed 28 days or 27 days. That seems to be a large number. How many days was our facility closed? And is this just full-time employees or is this part-time employees? You might not have the answer, but maybe you can feed it back, because I get a little worried that, 28 days is a long time to pay somebody for not really working.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Stewart, we definitely did not pay 28 days. The schools are a little bit different than us closing our facilities for closures. I don't have the actual data. However, I can I can go back to find that for you. We have just also implemented a new payroll system, which would be able to track snow days more appropriately. So we are planning to roll that out for the next winter season, but I would have to follow up with you related to the actual data for this past year.
Thank you, and that's fine with me. I didn't ask the question prior, so I didn't expect it. So thank you. If you could return that back to council in an email, thank you.
All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Environmental Services Compliance Report. Is Mr. O'Leary online with us this evening? There he is. Any questions regarding the Environmental Services Compliance Report for May 2025? Mr. O'Leary, thank you so much for your outstanding answer to that question. Well done. Okay, 2026 budget process and timelines. There was a report presented. Are there any questions for Roxana? Is she online this evening as well? Oh, for Jolene? Okay. Any questions for that report? Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I guess this is more a question to you versus to the staff, because you've provided direction on the length of time for each step. When I was looking at the legislated timelines, we would be wrapping up by January 20th instead of December 19th, whatever, 18th that we have on here. I know 19 days was more than we initially talked about. I'm still really would love the 30 days to read over the budget in terms of digesting it, booking meetings, getting meaningful amendments proposed, having discussions with you prior to any kind of a meeting. That's just my thought. I'm not sure if other people have any thoughts. It's a budget process where you have capacity to set those times, but I think for me to feel like I'm able to provide meaningful information that's well researched and well consulted with our staff, I'm just still not feeling like 19 days is quite enough for me.
Okay, thank you. Further comments? Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I think maybe just piggybacking on Councillor Blackwell's thought process. I wonder, your Mayor, if you could perhaps explain if there was any reasoning that you were taking to shortening the legislative timeframe.
The most pressing need is to complete the budget prior to the end of 2025, so that when staff begins work on the 1st of January, they have a budget that's ready to go. I have spoken with multiple staff members who have commented on the every day that you get into January and certainly into February where the budget is not passed, you are diminishing the ability to get meaningful quotations on various projects. Contractors are filling up very, very quickly. It is that's the primary reason. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you to you, Chair. On the last paragraph of page 3, under Council and Public Engagement Process, it says the Mayor will conduct citizen engagement sessions throughout the months of July and August to solicit public input into the 2026 budget. Just for clarification, me, you intend to conduct those citizen engagement sessions solely by yourself?
No. I intend to have absolutely at least a staff member to record and to listen and to make sure that any questions that are posed of me that I don't know the answer, I don't forget them in the process, and that they are directed towards the appropriate staff member for response.
Oh, sorry, I should follow up on that. That you will be the only member of council engaged in the citizen engagement sessions.
That's no. I these sessions will happen. Any counselor is welcome to come to any one of the
Okay.
session because they are members of council as well that hear public opinion. So
Thank you.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I'm quite excited about this process. It's a little bit unknown. It's a brand new process. The thing is that, we're going to be part of the planning budget process. And we're starting, actually, the mayor and I started last week, actually, and started to have conversations. So what I'm seeing is that, we might not need quite the 30 days like we used to, because we used to get delivered the budget in quite a large book. We're actually going to be part of that book and putting the pieces in ourselves along with the staff and everything. So I think that, looking at the timelines will work. Because, there'll be engagements between ourselves, there'll be engagements with the staff, there'll be engagements with the public. I'm really looking forward to it, but it is a commitment on the council part to have some spare time to make sure that we're available for those discussions prior. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, please.
Just on the back of Councillor Stewart's optimism, which is great to hear, I wonder, Mayor, if you could comment on whether or not you have any dates as of yet for July. I note that next week is July, or whether or not there's a time frame as to when the dates are going to be available for the public engagement process.
There is a joint meeting between some staff members and myself Monday of next week, which will firm up the consultation dates, and they will be distributed through our platforms and through council members and our media outlets as soon as we can after that. Okay, thank you for your comments. And once again, it is my absolute intention to work with each and every one of the council members. There's plans in place to make sure that we connect with the multiple organizations in our community that do great work with us, that are part of the budget from time to time. We're not going to, it's not my intent to avoid anyone as part of the conversations leading up to the distribution of this budget. All right, core level of service, Kincardine Fire and Emergency Services. We need a mover and seconder that council approve the level of services as presented in Report Fire Prevention 2025-03 and a bylaw be provided at a future council meeting for approval. Moved by Councillor Stewart and Hinchberger. Questions or Fire Chief would presentation, or you just want to respond to questions?
I can just start with a little bit of a, Reader's Digest summary. So the purpose of this report was, I guess this is now about my 10th month in the service in Kincardine, is trying to align all the services with what we have. And our bylaw, that portion of it was created, from the best we can tell, around 20 years ago. So the language in it is not what current standards or regulations require. So what I'm asking of council tonight is to look at our service levels that we have, and some of the requirements have changed so that council can then decide what services they want to provide, and then fire can then provide those services to the public on that. So that's really, this was, and my recommendations are in that larger document. They're based on past and historic call volumes. So I tried to put all of those in there for your reference. And then also based on the community risk assessment. So based on the potential types of calls that we would have, and also try to educate council on the level of service and training that we currently have and what would be required for some of the other services on that. So with that, I can take any questions.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you through your chair. Thanks for the report, Chief. The question I have on the, I'll call it the cover staff report on page 3, when it says implementation considerations, it says the recommended service levels exceed the resources available, and in order to implement them, additional funding will be required over the next 24 to 36 months. Can you kind of summarize what the magnitude of that additional funding would be?
So through you, Mayor, sorry. It would again depend on what council would select. So if it's based on the recommendations that are before, just the very rough values, it could be a couple of $100,000. And but again, it depends on the level of service that council selects.
Thank you. So for instance, the document provided Schedule B draft schedule of recommended services, the 200 roughly, and I know it's 200,000 plus or minus some standard deviation. That's what you're referring to? What's in that schedule before us? Thanks.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you. Thanks for putting this together for us and sharing all this information. I have a couple questions, so I know there's other folks with them, but the first one that I wanted to ask was about the jurisdiction and some of the overlap around the waterfront. So I know we spoke yesterday a little bit about that our jurisdiction right now and technically ends at the water's edge. Are you able to speak a little bit about the existing services that are at the waterfront already, like the Coast Guard and the OPP, and what gaps you see the proposal of service in this draft schedule? I think specifically ER 36 and ER 37, which is surface water rescue and watercraft rescue, what gaps you would see that filling?
Through you, Mayor. So currently, essentially, our jurisdiction as a municipality stops at the water's edge. If there's a search and rescue required, that's actually the responsibility of the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard currently comes out of Goderich. That boat could be as far north, I understand, as Sauble. So there's no guarantee where that boat may be. So from a level of service, if they require to do rescue, they may or may not be around. They do have teams that can go into the water and rescue people. They have what's called an auxiliary in Kincardine, which is called the MISIS boat. It has two vessels. They're a volunteer organization and can respond. They must muster and get everything through that way as well. They do not have the resources to go in the water from that level. The OPP does have a boat that's in the harbor now. It does patrols, so it can also be out and about as far north, I understand, as Sauble. That's part of their jurisdiction. They may or may not have resources to go into the water. They are also not guaranteed to be there. Then comes Kincardine Fire, which has historically provided, this is what would be called surf rescue. So not the inland waters, this is actually the surf rescues. And to various degrees of into the lake and not into the lake and so on. So what happens when a call comes in, you call 911, someone's in peril in the water, that goes through the OPP comm service. The OPP automatically get dispatched. They would then communicate that to the Coast Guard, and together they are the ones that respond. They then determine if they need someone further. So it could be their auxiliary, or it could be fire that would respond to that. So the gap that we tend to fill is that we can generally respond quite quickly. So our pagers go off once we're notified. We're at the fire station, relatively quick time at the beach, and I don't want to give a specific number, but generally quite quickly, probably in under 10 minutes. So we can provide very quick response for that. So that's a gap that fire has been filling. So council has to choose, because that's technically outside of our jurisdiction, to permit fire to do that and to provide the resources. The current resources that we have, rapid deployment craft, is not made to go into surf. That's not recommended for that, their usage, and we need additional training. So if council chooses to continue doing that, that's probably one of the bigger costs, where we would require a hard boat with motors and engines and things to do that type of rescue, and additional training for the firefighters. So I hope that answers it.
So I'm just going to interject. That was a great question. I just want to round that out a bit. The extra service, the extra cost is primarily associated with water rescue. And I'm wondering what it's a service that every community wants to provide. If we were to take a survey up and down the shoreline of Lake Huron, Saugeen Shores, ourselves here in Kinloss down the shore. What municipalities provide that service at this point? Are you aware? Can you, are we the one that doesn't do it, or will we be the one that does begin doing it? Where are we in that list of service providers, Chief, please?
So Saugeen Shores provides it. We do currently as well. Inland is actually Hanover provides that. And then I'm not 100% sure how far down. You're in Kinloss does not provide that. So they would actually be looking, there is appetite for people to look for this service that we would provide that at potentially a cost. So I can come back to council and say who is providing it, but those are the ones that I know for sure in this area.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. I have a follow-up, kind of just speaking directly to what you said there, which was if we were to provide the service, which is like an additional above and kind of beyond the service, perhaps in some of our neighboring municipalities, if we were to respond to an incident in their community, and again, I kind of just want to clarify, like the majority of surf rescues would be swimmers or people who have fallen out of a boat, right? It wouldn't be like a watercraft rescue. It would be specifically people. I think you can maybe touch on that. But then the other is just that if we are providing that service for a neighboring municipality, is there any capacity to do some cost recovery if it's not something that they're able to do?
Through you, Mayor. So to, I guess, bite that off in pieces, there's absolutely the ability to cost recover. So if we provide that service to another community, it would be a service agreement that we would enter into, council would enter into that with the neighboring community at a set, whether it's a fee for the call, per hour for the resource, whatever it might be, we could establish that. So there is a cost recovery for the neighboring communities that we would provide that to. There is in the province what's called mutual aid. So for example, if Saugeen Shores ran into a situation where they were out of their capacity and they offer the same service, then that would be mutual aid and we would not bill for that. So it would only be for communities that we don't have mutual aid for a like type of service with that, events or all that. And so we do have the ability to bill. Oh, sorry. And for on the rescue side of things, as I said, generally the MISIS or the Coast Guard, they're the ones that would respond to boats or water vessels, watercrafts that are not able to function. So they would bring them in to rescue them. We tend to generally only respond to where there's a life at risk that has fallen into the water for whatever reason, or a smaller craft that we could get to quite easily on there. So.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Yeah, this whole section, 32, 33, 35, 36, 37, 38, makes me very nervous. I understand, rescuing people on rivers, on small lakes and everything, but when you're dealing with Lake Huron, I've been around Lake Huron all my life and I've rescued people and I've also rescued some people that didn't quite make it. A drowning takes only 4 to 9 minutes. That's the average thing. By the time you get a boat out there and by the time you get your fire crew together, it's going to be longer than that. I just don't feel comfortable having you in the same environment as a victim. And that's the technical level. I really would feel a lot more comfortable with our firefighters to be more in the shore-based rescue. Whatever we can do from shore, I just feel more comfortable. You get out there on a very wicked day. I mean, the last thing I want to see is a firefighter, rescuing somebody and accidentally drowning themselves. I just don't know if we have that kind of experience that I would feel comfortable. I don't have a problem with the boat. I don't have a problem with the training and everything, but I just have a problem when it says technical rescuers will be in the same environment as the victim. I can't support that kind of section. I'm sorry. Everything else seems to be fine. It's just that I just don't want you out in the lake, period. Thank you.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much. First, through the chair, thank you very much for this. It's very refreshing, and I appreciate the detail that your service review has gone into. It provides me as a counselor a lot of information and a lot of confidence in the program going forward. in response to some of the earlier comments made by council, I think back to that August incident that occurred just south of here, where there was the tipped canoe, and it was Kincardine Fire that went in and rescued 3 people that otherwise wouldn't be here today. And I think there's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek hypocrisy there to suggest that people that are trained and experts and well-equipped and going in and putting themselves at risk, in our lake would be to turn around and say, well, we also don't want to put them in interior houses of firefighter because they're in the same spot as their victim. These are trained professionals, and I thank you for what you do, and I will be supporting your recommendation.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I had kind of one other question, and sort of based on the conversation, I'm going to see if I can throw a little extra at you, Guy. So hopefully, you can help me out with that. But the one thing that I wanted to ask a little bit was, we've kind of touched on it in our budget each year, and we're all just kind of not quite sure. The work done by our Coast Guard Auxiliary, right now they appear, some of the funding appears as a line item in your budget under the fire budget. My understanding, however, is that they operate completely independently of your department, that you don't operationally direct them. So that's kind of question number one, just to clarify that. The question number two, perhaps, is, are there alternative ways to be able to offer in-water rescue, potentially by further supporting the Coast Guard Auxiliary to become trained? Is that something that they could ever be foreseen to take on? Or is it really something that, if we're going to offer it, or say we want to offer it, we need it to be our fire that would be probably the most beneficial way to provide that service?
Through you, Mayor. So I guess the first part is I'm not aware what their protocols are for the Coast Guard Auxiliary, if they can provide that or not. So I'd have to see if that's within their mandate and scope to be able to do it. And the other question is that currently I don't direct the MISIS. There is a line item on, I guess, in the fire budget. It looks like, from what I can see, it's around a net cost of about $8,000 to the municipality. There's about $12,000 expenses and around $4,000 in grants that come in for it. So at $8,000, it does provide a service where they are. And my understanding is there's some calls every year where they go and get stranded watercraft operators out from there. So that's my understanding of the program.
So if I had to kind of summarize the conversation, and any one of my colleagues can tell me I'm missing the point here, which I pride myself in being able to do quite well. I think the recommendations by and large are appropriate, accurate, well described, and what should be provided within our municipality. But I too, like Councillor Stewart, I am aware of the significant change in policy going from shoreline into boats and rescuing. And I've heard Councillor Kavanagh speak about his support of it. It supports measures that we take regarding pier safety and a number of other initiatives. And I'm wondering, before we pass this, if I could just get the opinion of my colleagues regarding that, what I perceive to be a significant shift in service provision. So I'm going to ask Councillor Blackwell if you would comment whether you have any concerns about that. Like, that's, in my head, the only change I'm voting on is whether we go from onshore rescue to in-water rescue. Would you like to comment on that? How we have, am I reading this incorrectly, Chief?
If I may, it's not really a shift of what we're currently doing. We have been doing this. We are going out into the water right now. And just to support our firefighters, they are quite trained. The ones that are going out, highly trained and certified, and they have the appropriate PPE that's required, just as they do for structures. So I'm quite confident that they are that they're doing. They're NFPA certified in what they're doing. So the watercraft that we're using right now is what is one of the main issues in the number of firefighters we have. So that watercraft is not certified to go out as far as it's been going. So hopefully that clarifies it a bit, if it does.
So what I just said a minute ago, just forget that. Okay. All right. So we've got the policy before us. We've had opportunity to read, defer, and engage again. And I'm going to ask council now to indicate their support of this motion. It's been read and moved and seconded. All in favor of supporting the motion, please indicate. Any opposed? And
Sorry, through you, just on a procedural note there, Councillor Stewart originally moved that motion. If he's going to vote against it, which I think based on the discussion, should we have a different mover?
Technically, you should.
Yeah.
all right, so we'll reintroduce the motion moved by Councillor Kavanagh, and who was it seconded by? Still remain seconding that? Okay.
Oh, no.
All in favor of supporting the motion? Anyone opposed? And that is carried. Thank you, Fire Chief, for that report.
Thank you. And I must go because I'm also now doing training in Kincardine. So good night.
Okay, so there was a notice sent around by Legislative Services about the establishment of a primary healthcare ad hoc committee, and here's the resolution tonight to continue that process. We need a mover and seconder that the mayor and 2 members of council be appointed to a primary healthcare ad hoc committee to identify recommendations for the program to guide the future work of the physician recruitment and retention program. Moved by Councillors Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Blackwell. Conversation? Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you to you, Mayor. Given the broad implications of this, and I don't really consider it to be time critical to have this formed tonight, it's a matter that I'd like to see on the floor when we're fully assembled and not 3 down or two down. Sorry, Jen, you have your, thanks.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Just some guidance from our CAO, please. Just in response to your concern, Councillor.
Through the mayor to council, I would suggest that the time sensitive piece here is with respect to one of the elements in particular, and that has to do with the locum houses. So I sent a message out to council last week with respect to the fact that they are selling the second locum house, and that is on the market. They're interested very much to know where council's desire is in continuing with a future agreement that is similar for some other type of housing arrangement, or where we wish to go with respect to that. And I do think it's time sensitive with respect to that, because the fact that the other house has sold and this house is on the market and they're looking to purchase shortly. Is that correct, Manager?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
So when you say, could you define time sensitive? Like I hear what Councillor Hinchberger is saying, it would influence the decision by 2 weeks. So I understand your concern, but like if we left it off for 2 weeks until all of council was here, like that would only shift the, if everything stayed the same, it would shift the final report back 2 weeks.
Well, I heard another point. Well, thank you. And after hearing the Chief Administrative Officer's input, I'm just wondering how, if we were struck a committee tonight, how they would provide recommendations for a program in a time period that would meet the need to make a decision about locum houses. And it would seem to me that what should be done is split the locum house issue off from the main body and have that be a direct ask of council, and leave the remainder of it to a committee. Because like I just reiterate, if we strike a committee tonight, it's not going to meet, and it has to bring recommendations back. It's not given the authority to make decisions on its own. So that's my input.
Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. And while we're discussing this one, my objection is more along a philosophical line that has to do with the existence of the strong mayor powers. Council and the public received this published agenda for tonight's meeting on June 19th. Your direction, or your worship's direction to use strong mayor powers and create this committee didn't come out till June 20th, and it was added to the agenda June 23rd. And so I find it concerning that an item can be created by a strong mayor and then tossed onto the next agenda meeting. That leaves a process open that makes me concerned for democracy. For example, in this case, you could say we have an issue that needs the precedence, but to me, I would feel much more comfortable having the full amount of allotted time in order to decide what needs to be decided going forward in the future.
Okay, just please, CAO, please.
Sure. So I wanted to note that part of this is in response to the discussion that council had. Council received an update in closed session from the manager of strategic initiatives and the physician recruiter to get a sense of what it is that council would like to see with respect to physician recruitment. And there was certainly expressed desire to take a look at whether or not what we're doing, including all aspects of it, from the locum houses to incentives, et cetera, were things that council should and wants to carry on with. So this very much is in response to the council discussion that happened a month ago. With respect to the strong mayor powers, the mayor, the way that the legislation reads is the mayor has the authority to establish an ad hoc committee. And the only reason it's on council's agenda is because the mayor has delegated this authority to council. So he could have struck the committee on his own, like we had to do when it was time sensitive. But I think the suggestion from staff was perhaps this is when that council would be interested in having input into who sits on the committee, as opposed to it being solely at the determination of the mayor. So does that provide clarification? Because it's frankly, it took us as staff a minute to think, oh, we can't do this the way we normally have, the way the legislation sets it out. The mayor has to delegate this. Otherwise, this can't come to the council table. So this is where a little bit different than what we were expecting. And we requested this quite last minute because it's not how we're used to operating. So apologies if it didn't get on the agenda. The request to the mayor happened on Thursday to say, hey, by the way, we can't just put this as a staff recommendation. You have to delegate authority to council to make the determination. Does that help?
Thank you for clarifying the position. I would still, at this time, suggest that this be split. If there's something pressing that needs to be discussed, we can discuss that tonight. Otherwise, defer the rest till a later date.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Yeah. I'm a little bit confused here because, to discuss the locum houses, I don't have the information at all. That would be part of the committee to come. There's no reason why we can't have a committee and have a committee meeting tomorrow. I really do think that, the mayor's trying to be, and I, through your chair, of course, the mayor's trying to be, thoughtful for the council, but he can actually just appoint a ad hoc committee. I think this is long overdue and we need one. And if the council would just be a little bit understanding, I think we should move ahead on this one tonight. Thank you.
So if there is interest in deferring, then that would take a motion to do that, and that would determine whether or not we're going to defer, or whether we're going to address it this evening. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Just circling back, I wonder if our CAO could address your initial question, which was how time sensitive is the issue concerning the Locum House?
So through you, Mayor, I certainly think they feel it's pretty time sensitive. They're looking for a response from the municipality in short order, and that is part of the reason that we came to council a month ago to say, if you are looking to do things differently, we should be clear about what that is so that we have an appropriate response to them. So that's, I would say we're, trying to give the information to council in a meaningful way at the time that we can provide it, but also recognizing that this is a group that is making an investment and contribution to our community, and they're hoping for a response pretty soon. And I would suggest if it does stay as an ad hoc, a component of the ad hoc committee, certainly the recommendation is that's going to be the first order of business.
So if there's no motion to defer, then we'll move ahead with the motion, and we would also extend that likely by identifying who the two members of the ad hoc committee would be for physician recruitment, so that we can move it ahead. So the motion on the floor is that the mayor and two members of council be appointed to a primary healthcare ad hoc committee. All in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? That's carried. All right, if it's appropriate, I would accept recommendations or nominations from the floor, volunteer people to, if you were interested in being on this, then hold your hand up and let's have a conversation. Councillor Pranger, please.
I'll nominate Councillor Kavanaugh to be on this.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Oh, apologies. Sorry, I was actually just going to make a point of order that we should be using your mics if we're having discussions, but I think it was just procedural. Sorry, yep.
So Councillor Pranger did nominate someone, so we would need to know whether that person wants to
I will accept.
nominate. And then the next process is that anybody else would like to nominate somebody, and then we'll vote.
Sorry, I need to ask a question. Do some of these discussions put you in a conflict?
Absolutely, some of them will.
Okay.
But the vast majority, such as the Locum House, I believe I have impactful and insightful knowledge that far exceeds anyone else on this particular council, and I'm more than happy to provide everything that's where possible. And like always in council, I'm more than happy to, recuse myself and declare an interest if there's an issue that comes up.
That's true.
Any further offers or recommendations, Councillor Stewart?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, it's unfortunate because the person I thought would be a valuable committee member is not here tonight. I'm not sure, Jennifer, I'm going to be so bold, and maybe you can help me, and I might be wrong, that we sort of cancel this procedure and let the mayor go back to appointing 2 members. Can we do that? I know he's allowed us to do it. Can we reverse it on a vote?
Okay, on advice from the CAO, my delegation of authority to council extends as far as council wants to take it. If they don't want to take it any farther, then I automatically, the strong mayor power comes back and I can appoint another member to the ad hoc committee if council doesn't want to do it.
Thank you.
If you want to appoint the other person, then please do go ahead. That's what I had offered to begin with. But if need be, I can appoint the second member to the committee. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you. Just a follow-up process question on that. If you were to appoint someone, can they decline? They can, and then he would just choose someone else. Okay.
Yeah. Any points?
So through you, so if the sense is that council would prefer that the mayor make the decision, then he can wait and make the decision and share that tomorrow or the next day. And if it's that he needs the opportunity to see whomever he's thinking of is available and have a conversation with them, he can do so.
And if they choose not to accept, then I come back to council and I say who wants to do it, because the person that is not interested. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you. I think my issue with tonight is like the similar to Councillor Stewart's. The other person I would have nominated or suggested is not here tonight. And so, but one is, and if there's someone else who is like just itching to be on it, then obviously we can say, yeah, of course. But I think that's the conflict here, is like, it's just really difficult to make this decision when we know that there's an appropriate person for this committee that's not here tonight. So,
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I'm a little worried, and I'm going to be pretty blunt about this. Sorry about this, but having my fellow councillor that, who was asked to be on a committee that has some very important issues and right to the health committee is a little bit, I feel very uncomfortable about that, because, when you're only a committee of 3, and then you leave it down to 2, if you have to recuse yourself, it gets pretty small. I mean, committees of 3 are really tight. So, I know that you have a great deal of interest. I just worry about you being on a health committee with their circumstances that your partner is a doctor and head of one of the groups. Anyways, it's just my comment.
Can respond if you would like.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I did reach out to our integrity commissioner and seek clearance before proceeding with this and accepting the nomination. There are acknowledged there will be sections such as the medical clinic where I won't be able to provide any input. But for things that are more time sensitive, like this locum house, which I don't have a pecuniary interest and no conflict in, then I believe my information will be invaluable. I do absolutely agree with you. In fact, you've actually made my argument for me by highlighting the flaws of having a 3-person council committee appointed through and run through. We also had 2 councillors earlier saying maybe we should defer this till everyone's here, and that got down. But now it seems suddenly, now that I've been nominated, the feelings have changed.
Deputy Mayor, please.
I think I'll say this. I can see where Councillor Stewart's coming from. Certainly, and I suspect most of us can. Equally, I know that Councillor Kavanagh is very keen, willing, and able to sit on this committee. He's reached out to the Integrity Commissioner, which certainly shows some initiative on his part and takes this matter seriously. So I hear Councillor Stewart's concerns, and I think they're probably shared. And but Councillor Kavanagh, I think, has reassured through his actions prior to this evening that he can do the vast majority and will declare and recuse himself where necessary. So I think I can certainly support the recommendation when we have such a willing individual who is knowledgeable in the area.
Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you, I think I also struggled initially with the proposed appointment, but I did review quite closely the draft terms of reference that we'd be approving and the qualifications that says should be considered for appointing members was awareness and knowledge of healthcare in the community, relevant work and volunteer experience, demonstrated experience, interest and participation in healthcare. So it's a challenge when there's a potential perceived conflict of interest. At the same time, I think Councillor Kavanagh has been very proactive in ensuring that all of the times where there may be a conflict that he has declared and recused himself. And I think it would be hard to meet those qualifications amongst ourselves and where we have our expertise. I'd like to see it used if we can.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Basically, it's a duplication of what Councillor Blackwell and our Deputy Mayor just said, because I did consult with Councillor Kavanagh before making this recommendation and ask those questions of him to make sure that if there was a conflict that, or to what extent he did have a conflict with the topics that would be covered. And by the time we ended our conversation, I was confident that there wouldn't be any major issues. And to Councillor Blackwell's point, his experience and the qualifications that we're looking for people on this committee, he definitely meets those. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that we did address this issue before bringing it out to council.
Okay, so at this point, we've got one nomination and the indication that council wants me to approach a different councillor.
Yeah.
Who's kind of around the corner, which I will do. So if
Your choice.
would you like to move? Do we have a mover that? Would you like to move that Councillor Kavanagh be appointed to the committee? So moved.
Yes, I will move that.
Seconder. Councillor Hinchberger. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Welcome to the team, Councillor Kavanagh. I will connect with another councillor soon and confirm with council as soon as I can about their willingness to be on this committee. We'll also begin the conversation sooner rather than later. Like the committee work, not just the attendance on the committee. Notice of motion, amendment to development charges bylaw, moved by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Steinoff Gray. Do we need a different seconder if she's not here this evening, or we do? Yeah. Councillor Prenger, council approve an amendment to development charges bylaw 2021-114 to allow an exemption for childcare centers. All in favor? That's carried.
It was really, I probably should do an amendment just to make sure that our clerk doesn't. The amendment is because of Bill 17, things have changed just slightly. And what would the motion should be, amended motion should read, motion should be to bring back a bylaw on July 9th that exempts all classes of childcare as defined under the Childcare in Early Year Act 2014. It's just a legal part of it. I apologize, but I'd like to also thank our chief building officer and his staff. They did a lot of work on Bill 17, and we're allowed to do an exemption now under Bill 17 without actually going to report studies and everything else. So this has been a wonderful thing. So tonight we're voting on an exemption. Exempt.
This is presented as a friendly amendment.
Yes, it is.
Would the mover and the seconder agree with the amendment?
Yes.
All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any notice of motions this evening? Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you to your chair. I'm going to give notice that I have intent to introduce a motion at next council's meeting to amend our procedural bylaw to edit the agenda for our regular council meetings to include a section on outstanding actions owed to council.
Thank you.
Okay.
And you'll craft that with the clerk?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we have a consideration of bylaws. So we need a mover and seconder that the following bylaws are hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed 25th of June, 2025. Social media policy bylaw, acceptable use of IT policy, right to disconnect policy, winter storm policy, repeal various bylaws, primary healthcare ad hoc committee terms of reference bylaw. Moved and seconded by Deputy Mayor Clark and Councillor Hinchberger. All in favor? That's carried. Consent agenda. So items listed are considered in one motion. Exception is for any items that any council member or the chief administrative officer would like to remove from the agenda for separate discussion and action. Are there any items any council members would like to address for comment or further discussion? All right, so we need a mover and seconder that council approve the recommendations contained in the consent agenda dated June 25th, 2025, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Moved by councillors Kavanagh and Stewart. All in favor? And that is carried. Member of council, general announcements. Councillor Blackwell, please.
Can you come last?
Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say we have a very exciting weekend in Tiverton, Kincardine. It's July 1st. Everyone, I think you got an invite, a personal invite, if you want to come to the grand opening of the Tiverton Splash Pad. It's been an enormous success. And we're having hot dogs and all the things. And the grand opening by our president will be at 12 o'clock, followed by the staff. And thank you very much, Lori and the staff, for having a Canada Day in Tiverton, where we have another barbecue and a movie night and all sorts of day, touch the truck, followed by, I guess, Kincardines having theirs on Sunday. And then there's a parade on Tuesday. So there's 1, 2, 3. So I hope everyone can attend, and we're looking forward to it. There's no age restriction on the splash pad. If you're brave enough to wear a bathing suit, you're more than welcome to join us. Thank you.
Not like
Ain't happening. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to do a shout out and thank you to the volunteers who have done some great work at the dog park recently, cleaned it up a lot and made it easier for staff and to maintain in a nicer manner. And thank you to the staff who are going to help keep it beautiful like that.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you through your chair. I don't have anything tonight.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, just briefly, Councillor Stewart provided a comprehensive list of some of the exciting stuff that's coming up. I will just highlight this past week was full of many great activities within the municipality, including Rock with Your Docs, which had a wonderful surprise of Bruce Power donating another $500,000. We had the Pride Parade, which was wet and wild, and it was a wonderful time had by all. And yeah, I'm really excited to kick off the summer with even more going on.
Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, the weekend of July 5th is the Scottish Festival. That's it.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you for
You get 2.
giving me, I'm going to throw in 3. I always do 3. The first thing I really wanted to actually acknowledge was June is Men's Health Awareness Month. I think this one's a bit personal, so I'm going to try and get through it. But there's a couple stats that was shared with me the other day that I really wanted to highlight. So 1 in 2 Canadian men face isolation. 23% are at risk of moderate to severe depression. 64 report moderate to high levels of stress. And 67% have never used mental health services. And so I just want to encourage those in our community, particularly our first responders and others who may be feeling like sometimes silence is strength, that it's not, that it is a good time to reach out for support and to ensure you're getting the help that you need. On a more positive note, I wanted to note that Adelie Turland of Kincardine competed recently at the OFSAA Track and Field Championships in Toronto, which is the Ontario High School Championships. She came away a double silver medalist with a silver medal in junior women's discus and shot put. So that's a pretty fantastic feat. The last thing I wanted to share was Fridays of this month, the new Kincardine the Well Youth Hub is going to be available. So it's a PD day. I know that people won't be at school, so hopefully some youth between ages of 12 and 25 go down, check it out, see what it's all got to offer. It's going to be a fantastic addition to our community.
I'd like to acknowledge the good work that our community service department did up at the Inverhuron Beach in cooperation with Tiverton Lions. There was a whole bunch of debris gathered up off the beach. I think I saw the beach cleaner on the highway on the way home today. I think maybe. And that's not a person, that's a thing. Anyway, well done. Everybody's gonna love it up there. And that's all I have.
I have one announcement. It's less fun. As a reminder, fireworks are only permitted to be set off on Canada Day, Tuesday, July the 1st. Sorry.
We can exempt ourselves from our own bylaws, so that's a good thing. We have no. All right, we need a mover and seconder that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as amended for the purpose of considering the closed session minutes dated June 11, 2025, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, particularly Kincardine Marina. Position plan, procedure, criteria, instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on behalf of the municipality, specifically W.E. Thompson lease agreement, trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, or financial or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, specifically Westerio shareholder update. Position plan, procedure, criteria, same as number 3, specifically about the nuclear strategy, and further that council return to regular open meeting upon completion. Moved by councillors, Deputy Mayor, and Councillor Stewart. All in favor?